Today's topic, folks, first and foremost, is the question, trusting the language. There's so much language being spewed out right now. And when I say that, you have to understand, I've been talking about language and creation for the last 2-3 years in my studies. If you want to go back and look, I spent the last year talking about language and creation and how those things are. Language is very important, and what we're doing here is very important. So we appreciate you joining with us this morning and supporting what we do. And if you're enjoying it, please hit the like button. Share your thoughts on the show here on and comment on what we've got here, and please share it on to your friends and family. We do appreciate it. We hope it's a blessing to your life, and it prospers you in a way that can help you walk the path towards righteousness. That's what it's about. Okay, so with that being said, we got some headlines I want to go through, and I was watching. I've watched all across from CNN to MSNBC to Fox to all kinds of stuff I watch, and listening to what people are saying, because I believe you can get an understanding of what is happening on a broad scale in this world by listening to the language. And that's the thing. What language is not just the formation of a word coming out of your mouth, but starts with the idea in the mind. Then it is communicated in the form of speech. But language first is what is in the mind, the thought, the inner thinking, what a person is in that respect. And we always just think of language as something that comes out of the mouth. Well, at first, what most people don't. Most people speak without thinking. That's a given. And I remember Dad growing up has always told me, remember, first, before you say something, make sure you're thinking right before you say it, because if you open your mouth and all your brains fall out, you might say something stupid. And I've done that.
So have I. When I was young.
So it is a matter of understanding that it's there and what is happening in the world around us. There's a lot of language. There's a lot of things being said. How do we understand it, and why are they saying it, right?
Absolutely. You know, you can say something that sounds, how do I want to put it? You know, that sounds halfway good or right. But underlying that could be a terrible deception. And this is the way deception works.
Right.
It isn't something that they don't come out blatantly and just yell in your face.
Some do.
Yeah,
it just depends.
It depends.
But that's an easy person to see.
But the ones that are really dangerous are the subtle ones.
Yeah.
That come bearing gifts. It's like, the Troy. Don't let the Trojan horse in the building, because if you do, then you're in trouble. And so, that's the old saying, beware of Greeks bearing gifts.
Right.
So when we listen to somebody talk, if we don't know them especially, right. If you know a person, that's one thing. But if you don't know these people, like politicians or judges or government officials or whoever, even your neighbor next door, if you don't know them.
A pastor.
Right. Then you need to listen and weigh very carefully what they say. The scripture says, try the spirits, whether they're of God.
Yeah.
Well, how do you do that? And, all my life, this spiritual thing has bugged me, because I could never define spirit except like a phantasm or something like that. So how do I judge a spirit? Right. Am I supposed to look at a phantasm and say, well, I don't know if that's one from the Lord or from not or
right.
What? No. We try the spirits by understanding what people say. It's in the mind.
Yes.
The spirit of a man is his mind. And when you judge something, judge it according to what truth is. Is it true? Is it not true? Is it based in truth or not? Is it coming from a true heart, a true mind being said to you? Because deception is easy.
And you go all the way back to the garden, Dad, and we do this all the time. We talk about this because I believe, and we've talked about this for some time. Dad's always said that truth runs from the first chapter to the last chapter throughout the whole thing. And, you know, it goes to, you're talking about, it said, now the beast of the field was more subtle than any other, you know, cunning, subtle, all those things that, and this goes right to your point, and this is what brought about that thought process. And the language, hath God said. It wasn't that Jehovah didn't exist or this or that, but the question becomes, does he exist? Is it true? Is it real? And this is the language that we're seeing postulated, and it has been throughout through the Enlightenment period of the world, starting back with the Enlightenment. There has been the attack on, and I use the term attack.
Yeah, well, it is an attack.
On Jehovah and creation itself. Starting, you know, you had the science, you had evolutionary theory come in, uniformity, Unitarianism, and all those types of things that started looking at the earth, started postulating man of his own definition, and the language started changing how we talked about ourselves, how we talked about humanity, and asking the question about ourselves, what is man? Who am I? And trying to look beyond a creator into something that would form his own opinion of himself.
Well, yeah, and what you said about the beast being more subtle, he didn't come saying there's no God. Jehovah doesn't exist. He didn't say that. In fact, he recognized him. Hath God said this? And Jehovah knows, he knows in the day that you do this, you know, you'll become like a God, and he doesn't want you to do that.
Right.
So
you'll live by your own strength.
Right, your own strength. And so here was the deception. It wasn't that he didn't exist. It wasn't anything like that. It was the subtlety of changing the narrative.
Right.
He changed the narrative to where man believed, Adam believed he could live by his own arm, by his own strength. And that's why the Lord said, okay, from now on, you know, you're not going to be in this garden where I provide for you. You're going to be out there, and it's going to bring forth thorns and thistles, and by the sweat of your brow, you're going to earn your bread. And so, you know, this is what I was saying. Words can deceive. And if you believe it, then you're in serious problems.
And this is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a lot of words. If you notice, commercial after commercial on television, on radio, on internet, on YouTube, on all of it, wear a mask, get vaccinated, wear a mask, get vaccinated, wear a mask, get vaccinated. Why? Yep. Why do they do that? Because that is the thought process that becomes, you know, that must be right. True or not, every study that has come out, really, even the CDC themselves and all these people have said masks don't really change anything.
Don't work.
Because a virus molecule is small enough to get through it, and it takes one specific type of mask, and nobody's wearing those.
And it's airborne.
So, okay, we have statistical information that says it doesn't really affect children. It's a 99.97% survival rate. I'm not saying anything that this isn't on the CDC website, so I'm just saying. So why are these things being said? Why? And as we start going through the political thought process, now we're starting to see the language change in a very dictatorial way.
Yep.
I was watching a few shows last night, and the term domestic terrorism has become a huge thought process. And it was interesting, right after domestic terrorism, the use of the term religion was used. It wasn't about this group or whatnot. They would talk about white nationalism and religion. So so now anybody who's white and a believer are automatically Ku Klux Klan? Is that what we're saying? Is that the thought process here? See, the language is very dangerous in my opinion.
But they never say anything about Antifa or Black Lives Matter, who are domestic terrorists, have burned cities, burned stuff, killed policemen, and so forth.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that happen from Christians.
Go ahead.
I saw something yesterday on Facebook. Everybody knows who Arnold Schwarzenegger is. And he's on doing this piece about what happened at the White House. And we know that it was done by Antifa. It was done by people mimicking Trump supporters that got all that started. Nevertheless, he's on there telling us about he was born in Austria and he was born during the before the First World War, and he's talking about how when the Nazis came and they destroyed democracy and they this and they that, and he was actually calling the people that did that Nazis. We're Nazis because we don't agree with them. We're Nazis, and we're fascists. I don't know if Mr. Schwarzenegger has ever read any history or knows any history, or if he's just ignorant. I don't know. But, I could go back, Google it, go find it. When Hitler came to Austria, they stood in the streets and cheered him. They waved the Nazis' flag. They did it all. They invited them to come in.
Yeah.
So tell me about how the Nazis came and destroyed them. See, the deception is, here's the deception. They deceive you into believing them, and then they turn on you and destroy you. And that's exactly what Hitler did. They brought him right in. It's like bringing the wolf into the house. It's like Little Red Riding Hood in a way. The wolf comes in, and Grandma's there. And so he's in the bed, and she comes in because she thinks it's Grandma. Well, why do we run to our own destruction? Why do we actually accept the things that we know are going to destroy us? But that's the truth of it. So maybe Mr. Schwarzenegger ought to study his history a little more.
Well, the thing that is interesting is this isn't something that I'm just saying off the top of my head or whatnot, but I'm looking at CBN News this morning, and their headline on CBN News says, "Prepare for persecution." That's what they said. Domestic terror law, big tech and big media may target Christians. I would suggest you go and read this article at CBN News and look at the language that's happening. Now, see, you have to understand, I understand where Dad's at, but this is way beyond just the nation. This has to do with these people here. What is happening is it's a war on Jehovah.
Yes, it is.
It's a matter of what has been going on in the world for some time. The United States of America, I don't believe it. You can say what you want to. I've done enough history study. It was not founded on Christian principles. It was founded on Enlightenment principles. The Constitution was built through Enlightenment thinking that was much different than what we think, and in my estimation gave a lot of opportunity for what we see in the world today, because it divorced mankind, it divorced the government from any form of thought process towards a creator. Even though it said, in the Declaration, it doesn't say anything like that. The Declaration of Independence says, endowed by our creator, but what creator? That's very open to opinion. But the Constitution sets in place a very secularist idea of things. And this is what we're seeing in our culture today and has given rise to that. And the world is taking advantage of these opportunities, and they have divorced themselves more and more and more and more from the idea and the language of creation, the language that we were created in the image and likeness of our Father, so that we can dictate for ourselves what we are going to be.
Yep.
And if you say anything different to that or opposed to that, all of a sudden, because I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, now is that domestic terrorism? Is that where it's going? And we're here on Facebook. I have no problems using social media, but if they are going, I don't care if they cut me off or whatnot. I guess that's up to them. But that doesn't change me as a person. I'm still who I say I am. The problems in the country are what they're going to do. Just because they would shut me off of a social media post wouldn't change my ability or my thought process to share the good news of Jesus Christ.
No.
It's not going to change anything about who I am and what I am. Now, if we're going to think in these fashions, what are we seeing and how are these people moving towards this? Because in Dad's example, this is the thought process. The church is welcoming this in. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is read it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we have major megachurch pastors marching with Black Lives Matter. I've never been prejudiced my whole life. I have many, many friends from all nationalities. I've preached all over the world. Never had a problem with anybody as far as their ethnic background, their color, or anything else. I don't have that. I never did. I was taught against that. I wasn't raised that way. And my faith doesn't allow that anyway. But who's actually fomenting all this strife? Who's actually fomenting the racial strife? And who is actually bringing it to bear? It's people from all ethnics, backgrounds.
Ethnicity,
yes.
Yeah.
It's everybody, and they're small groups, and they want to do it. They want to divide. They want to cause. They don't want peace. They want this thing to happen because it keeps everything in turmoil. And when you have turmoil, then those who stand back and have created it and watch it, they take control. Because people get confused, and there's confusion, and where there's confusion, there's every evil work, the Bible says. So nothing good comes out of confusion. And this is what they attempt to do. It's what they want to do. And so we have conditions in the world right now that they're fomenting the hatred.
And that doesn't matter, white, black, brown, Asian, Caucasian, black. It doesn't matter. It's all part of it. Everybody's involved in this.
Well, to my point, I have never seen a man, president or not, or anybody, that has been so hated.
I know.
By people. I mean, what did this man ever do except help the country? Had the best unemployment we've ever had in the history of the nation. Had jobs, everything. He did a lot of good things as far as secular politics are concerned, and yet they hate his guts. And they actually, hatred beyond what you can even imagine. I mean, this is just flat out hatred. So what makes you think they're not going to turn on us?
Well, and here, this is very well known. T.D. Jakes suggests using churches, faith-based groups to encourage African Americans to take COVID vaccine. Chick-fil-A manager helps South Carolina town with drive-through vaccinations. What are we doing? I mean, the vaccination deal, that's up to you. I'm not going to say, but we're buying into these things, and we're doing, here, questions continue. This is Christianity Today. Questions continue for women in complementarian churches. What's that got to do with anything? I mean,
what do they mean by complementarian?
I know what they mean. You got here's an opinion piece. Huffington Post blaming Christian curriculum for Capitol riots is slanderous. So what are they saying? There's somebody saying that the Christian curriculum, schools, this type of thing, is fomenting these things.
Yeah.
The language that's happening right now, folks, what is being said, you better pay attention and listen with an ear, because there is this formation of thought with this domestic terrorism. And CBN, I agree with them. This domestic terrorism is looking towards this idea that religion is behind this, that Christians. The war that we have is not between good and evil. The knowledge of good and evil stands there by itself, and they're warring that. We can't get into that. We need to stay here on the side of who's on the Lord's side, come over here, Moses said. That's where the tree of life resides, and the gospel is preached, and the truth is spoken, period. This is what needs to happen, and our language needs to stay out of the politics, stay out of the nonsense, and preach the good news of Jesus Christ. Pay attention to what's going on, to be sure, and understand the language that's being used against the truth.
Well, just a basic thing. Here's just a basic thing. No dissenting opinion is allowed.
Right.
If you have a different opinion, or if you tell something that they don't want to hear, look what Twitter did. Look what they're doing. They're taking
Dr. Michael Brown.
Yeah.
Taken off. He's shut down Twitter. Yeah.
And so this is a step toward a totalitarian state where no dissenting opinion is allowed. I don't know how many doctors I have listened to. Doctors, credible people with pedigrees from here as long as your arm. And they talk about what the vaccine is and what it will do and so forth. And it's not even a vaccine. It isn't even a vaccine. The Pope had to give a special dispensation because it has fetal tissue in it. So the Catholics could take it. Well, wait a minute. You're using human fetal tissue in a vaccine. I don't know what other people are listening to or what they're hearing, but there's all over the place. You don't have to go very far to hear this, and yet all we hear is get vaccinated, get vaccinated, get vaccinated, as Brian was saying. So
yeah,
you ought to pay attention, and you ought to go find out for yourself rather than just sit and listen. And this is what people usually are not willing to do. They don't go find out for themselves. You just buy the okie doke.
Yeah.
No, whatever the guy says, that's okay. Don't bother me. I'm busy.
And they quoted. I'm going to finish with this because
ahead.
we're running a little long today. But I just want to. There's in this article that we talked about here on CBN, Prepare for Persecution. They're quoting this priest from the Eastern Bloc nations during the Eastern, Soviet communist, and he said, I think this is interesting, and what people don't. He said in here, let me find it. Oh, I had it. There it is. He said, and unlike Soviet and Eastern Bloc communism, Dreher describes what may be coming to America as soft totalitarianism. He said it's not going to have gulag secret police, the thing the Soviets had. Rather, this is something that is going to be done mostly by big tech limiting access to economy, keeping it so only those who conform with what the regime wants can participate in the economy, explained Dreher. And I'm not so sure he's not correct.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
We're looking at things here at the end of the age here, folks. I would suggest you go and read Revelation a little bit. See what's happening.
Especially the last part of the book.
Yeah. And we've got a lot of stuff happening. We're going to stay in tune with this. Again, if you like what we're doing, please like it, share it, comment, shoot us a question, comments in the post there. We appreciate you being with us. A lot of stuff going on, Pop.
Yep.
A lot of stuff going
A lot
on.
of stuff.
So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll have Dad on with something to think about, which will be good. You won't want to miss that. Until then, everybody have a great day in the Lord, and always remember to give love, give life, and give Jesus. We'll see you next time.